A few more years shall roll, a few more seasons come. My name is Julia Roxanne Wallace, also known as Shangodari Akinwale. My dad and grandfather and uncles pastored churches in the South, North Carolina, South Carolina. So the churches were hot and steamy, the smells of perfumes and maybe some candy, peppermint smells, that kind of thing. And I think that my fondest memories actually in church are those summer nights in a fall revival at Lower Rose Hill. Farming community, pretty much everybody in the family, in the church was related. It'd be hot, it'd be packed out every night, and the church would be rocking. You could feel the floorboards as folks are singing and stomping. Growing up, I really liked to sit with women in church, like to lean up against them and go to sleep, because until I was like 11, I could sleep in church. I knew I had these crushes, and I would write little love notes, but from the little boys that I was friends with. I think growing up, I always really liked how my dad dressed. He's the one in the pulpit, he's getting the attention. But now he's excited to help me with suits and to comment on my tie and things like that, which is really, really cool. I really value that. In the culture, the larger sort of United States, Southern, whatever, culture is where I've learned you're a girl, you can have a crush on a boy. If you're a boy, you can have a crush on a girl, that's appropriate. Or if you're a girl, you're supposed to dress like this and like these colors and these games. When we teach kids how they are supposed to be, we're also teaching them how they're not supposed to be. So I definitely think that I got the messaging that same-sex attraction was not good, gender queerness or gender transgression was not good, but not in an explicit way. More of the implicit modeling and messaging from family and larger society and church. I overcame that by really studying the Bible for myself. I think maybe about 16, I started to spend more time with one of my cousins who is homophobic, heterosexist, thinks that same-sex, everything is bad, you're gonna burn in hell. But through that relationship with him and learning more about reading the Bible and what tools and resources there were to think theologically and to reference one scripture to another scripture. So those sorts of things I think was very useful. I think all I needed was the information, because I knew that there was something wrong with some of the messages that I was receiving about gender, sexuality, whether they were implicit or explicit. Just knowing history, knowing my history and the history of my faith and the ways that it's been used to oppress and to abuse people for any number of identity characteristics, be it race, gender, sex, sexuality, class. It's unfortunately a tool that can be used for good or for evil. Learning more about the history of Christianity and the Bible was able to let me see that it could be a tool for love, for liberation, and that it'd be my choice to use it that way. Well, right now I practice Ifa, which is a Yoruba spiritual tradition from the Yoruba people in Nigeria. I was really invested in the spirituality and religion that my family was, engulfed in, and really believed the things that I was taught about, the miracles in the Bible and all of the things that were possible through Christ, or in the cosmology that I was learning about. And so I think I was always searching for that, like, okay, well, how do we get to that next level of spiritual practice where you can lay hands on people, or what river to send somebody to get their healing. And I think as I got older and delved more into my own faith, into other spiritualities, I never quite found that. Even going through to theology school, there was not a way that I was able to get to what I felt like was the deep, actual, earth-based practice of Christianity. And so then I met an Ifa priestess, had my first reading or divination, and from there I was like, oh, this is it. This is home. I consider myself still to be Baptist. The way I understand the Baptist denomination, there's this sort of priesthood of all believers. So as a Baptist, your theology is valid because you are doing theology. Of course, doing it in community, but you are able to do that for yourself. You don't necessarily have to go to a priest or to a preacher to figure out or decide what you believe. You can go to God, you can go to the Bible and determine for yourself. I have a story like a lot of, I think, queer Christians. It's like, oh no, I'm not queer, I'm not gay, I'm gonna not be that way anymore. And then of course you are, so you are again. And so that sort of back and forth is a part of my story, just like it's a part of a lot of people's story. But I think going to college, being away from home and expanding my mind in a general sense, and then going to theology school is really what set it off, and being in an environment where you were encouraged to think theologically, which I think my dad and my mom did, but they weren't necessarily really giving me the tools to do that. And I think going to theology school really helped with that and helped me understand not only what I believe, but that my beliefs could evolve, and in fact they should evolve. Because if I'm, in this place understanding what is the world, what is God, what does it mean to be here in this realm, a spiritual being having human experience, if that stays in one place, there's a problem. That should be something that's constantly evolving until the day I die, so that at some point, the miracles that I was learning about growing up are the same miracles that I'm able to enact in the world. Who I am is a gift from God, from the Creator, and is exactly who I'm supposed to be in this life. Acknowledging that and affirming that is what leads me to my destiny, is what leads me to do the sorts of ministering and healing and positive transformation that I'm supposed to be doing while I'm here. To deny that is to deny your purpose. My soul for that great day.